Long ago, in the great stretches of the endless cosmos, there were whispers of a place beyond the galaxies, beyond the stars, where time and space did not work as we knew them. This was the empty universe, a vast, empty realm where no star had ever burned, no planet had ever spun, and no life had ever existed. At least, that's what the old star maps and legends told. But no one truly believed it, for to believe that a place could exist without anything in it was too strange to fathom. Yet, a brave crew of explorers, led by Captain Lyra, had heard the call of this ancient legend. They were explorers, adventurers who lived for the thrill of the unknown. Captain Lyra had always dreamed of finding the lost civilizations of the cosmos, the ones whose names had been wiped from the stars. She was convinced that there was something out there, something hidden, waiting to be discovered. And so, her ship, the Wanderer, was built for this mission. With its sleek silver hull, it could travel faster than the speed of light, diving through hyperspace to places that no one had ever reached before. One evening, as the stars twinkled far away, the crew gathered around the central command deck. The stars flickered on the map as Captain Lyra stared at the uncharted area ahead. The journey was dangerous. No one had ever returned from the empty universe, and all ships that tried to chart it had vanished. But Lyra's heart was set. She pressed the button, and in a burst of light and energy, the Wanderer jumped into hyperspace. As the ship hurtled through the wormholes, twisting and warping the very fabric of time, strange things began to happen. The usual humming sound of the engine softened, and the stars outside the windows slowly faded away, leaving only the deep black void of space. Then, in an instant, the stars were gone. The crew was plunged into a silence deeper than the deepest night. "We've reached it," murmured Tarek, the ship's navigator, his voice filled with awe. "The empty universe." Lyra stared out at the void, a chilling sense of uncertainty creeping into her chest. Nothing. Not a single speck of light. Only the cold emptiness of space stretched out before them. "Where are the stars?" asked Alara, the ship's scientist, her voice filled with both fear and fascination. "This isn't like any part of space we've ever encountered." Lyra shook her head. "It's as if we've entered a place that doesn't belong. A place, out of time." Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped, breaking the silence. A strange signal pulsed across the empty expanse. It wasn't from any star, planet, or moon. The source of the signal came from something else. Lyra motioned to the crew. "Prepare to investigate," she said, her voice firm and commanding. They had come here for answers. Now they were going to get them. The ship moved slowly, cutting through the emptiness, following the strange pulse. It led them to the most unusual sight, the first thing they had seen in this universe, a structure. It wasn't large, but it was unmistakable, a monolithic tower, standing alone in the dark void, with no planet, no moon, no stars around it. Just the structure, tall and unyielding, as if it had waited for their arrival. "What in the stars is that?" Alara whispered, her voice trembling. Lyra studied the structure carefully. It was a spire, made of dark, iridescent stone that seemed to shimmer even in the absence of light. The surface was smooth, with strange symbols carved into it, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. It didn't look natural, yet it had a feel of ancient wisdom, as though it had been standing for eons, waiting. "That is not of this world," Lyra said quietly. "We need to investigate." The crew suited up, preparing for their first steps into the unknown. The airlock opened with a hiss, and one by one, they stepped onto the surface of the strange tower. The ground beneath them felt solid but warm, as if it were alive in some way, pulsing gently underfoot. The symbols on the tower seemed to move, shifting and changing, as though the structure was responding to their presence. Tarek pointed to one of the symbols, which appeared to form a doorway. Slowly, cautiously, the crew moved forward, and as they crossed the threshold, they were greeted by a sight unlike anything they had ever imagined. Inside the tower was vast, far larger than the exterior suggested. The walls shimmered with the same eerie blue glow, and strange constellations drifted across the ceiling, as if the sky itself were alive. The air was thick with a sense of mystery, as if every step they took stirred echoes of long-forgotten stories, whispers of a time before time itself. And then they saw it. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it rested an object that seemed to hum with power. It was a sphere, smooth and gleaming, radiating a faint light. As they approached it, the temperature of the room seemed to shift, growing warmer, as though the very air was alive with energy. "What is this?" Elara whispered in awe. "I don't know," Lyra replied, stepping forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "But I think this is what we've been searching for." The moment Lyra touched the sphere, a voice echoed in her mind, a voice ancient and full of sorrow. "You have found the heart of the universe," it whispered. "Guard it well, for the universe you know will cease to exist if it falls into the wrong hands." The voice faded, leaving Lyra in stunned silence. She looked at her crew, but they, too, were frozen, their faces pale with realization. The heart of the universe. They had discovered the one artifact that held the power to shape existence itself, and in their hands, it pulsed with an energy that no one could fully comprehend. As they stood there, a shiver ran through the tower, and the very walls seemed to tremble. Something was coming. The crew didn't know what, but they knew one thing for certain: they were no longer just explorers. They were guardians of the most powerful secret the universe had ever known. And as the tower began to shake and the symbols on the walls twisted and writhed, Lyra whispered, "We've uncovered the first part of an ancient legend, and I fear we may have awakened something even greater." But before they could react, the structure began to collapse, sending them scrambling for the exit. What had they awoken? And what else lay hidden in the empty universe?